hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk, what we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight is brother
Dennis Burnside.
Charles Thomas.
Okay, we got a lot to cover tonight, but you was going to tell us something.
Yeah, I want to get it out there that at Shabazz Academy, Black Friday,
Okay.
is the day after Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a program there at Shabazz Academy,
Okay.
and we're going to discuss issues of the black community and concerns of the black community, and we're inviting the public out to attend it from 10 to 2.
Okay.
And
On Black Friday.
On Black Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, you said something about a movie?
Yeah.
Hidden Colors.
Hidden Colors 4.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And the discussion.
Okay, so after the movie, the discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Things we want to cover: economics, information,
Okay.
and what was the third one?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Business. Yeah.
So how did it come up after? How did we come at Black Friday? What was
Well,
the thing about that?
a couple years ago, the young people in our community that comprise Black Lives Matter decided to have an economic boycott on Black Friday.
Okay.
And they actually physically boycotted certain areas of the country, like the Miracle Mile in Chicago, and they shut down shopping there. And they had a measurable economic impact on these big multinational corporations, in that they saw their sales precipitously drop on Black Friday. And for the last 2 years, that's been going on, and it's made the point that we should not do business with people who don't respect our rights. We should not inject a shot of adrenaline into an economy that doesn't respect our rights, doesn't respect our humanity, doesn't respect our right to walk down the street without being summarily executed by the police for spurious reasons. From that movement, we saw an opportunity to not only continue with that economic boycott, but convey some information to the community that's needed. If people haven't seen the Hidden Colors series, there's Hidden Colors 2, Hidden Colors 3, and now 4 is the new one. Do yourself a favor, go on Amazon or go down to Detroit and go to Nandi's Knowledge Cafe, any number of places, and buy yourself these DVDs and sit down and learn something about your people. This is not the Tyler Perry type buffoonery. It's not entertainment. It's something that is edifying in terms of knowledge, and something that you can carry on. And I think that African Americans should spend a little less time being entertained and a little more time being informed, and that's part of what we're looking to do.
Yeah. One of the things that that kind of irritates me is that we make up 13 to 15% of the population, and yet and still we just gog over these movies that's not worth anything, not even worth seeing. So, what about this movie?
This movie is something that stimulates your consciousness.
Okay.
We as a people have so many distractions through Hollywood, through sports, through things of that nature. So I think it's time for us to focus on economics, knowledge, and family.
Okay.
You know, it's that time. It's past that time. This is something that Frederick Douglass, E.B. Du Bois, and other, Marcus Garvey, all of them has talked about years ago, but we haven't acted upon it. And we have to understand and talk about what's hurting us and what's holding us back from communicating.
Okay.
You know, we are beautiful people, but we don't know it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's our problem.
Right, yeah. So we have to bring that and market that, you know, after what we have survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that we discuss it all the time. When will we put some of these ends together?
Well, just go back to the movie for just a moment.
Okay.
It's a documentary. It's not a movie in terms of fiction or some type of script that was written like a fictional book.
Right. Yeah.
It talks about events that have happened. It's a documentary that looks at our history, and this particular version is called the religion of white supremacy.
Okay.
Because if you look at the myth of white supremacy and how it manifests itself to this very day, it is in the form of a religion. You believe in it. There's no empiric data to support the notion that Caucasian people are inherently superior in terms of the intellect or the ability in any particular field. It's a belief that's passed on from generation to generation. And interestingly enough, it's just not among white folks. It's among black people, it's among Asian people, it's among people around the world who are living under oppression and living under a circumstance that is not of their own. So this film tackles the myth of that religion, and then it goes into remedies about how we could approach this, and that's Chuck did a good job of outlining that. Now, if you look at our future, I for one believe that we're moving forward in a way that inevitably will see the day where we are no longer living under oppression. We are no longer living under the myth of white supremacy. We are no longer blind to our own history. We're no longer worshiping mythical images and worshiping them as if they existed instead of looking at our own spiritual history. I think that time is coming. I don't think it's going to come in our lifetime. I think it's several dozen, if not a couple hundred years away. But I don't want people to be discouraged because we've only been enslaved. We've only been living under this economic suppression, this myth of white supremacy for about 500 years.
Right.
Prior to that, from 711 to 1492, the dominant political, military, and economic power in the world were the Moors, who not only dominated North Africa, but they dominated most of Europe. At a time when you had Paris and London still being villages with illiterate people, with no architecture of substance, you had the Songhai dynasty, which had libraries and bridges and irrigation and just a modern, wondrous city, boulevards with traffic and international trade. Our people don't know about that.
Okay.
And the reason why we don't know, at the time that the transatlantic slave trade was just beginning under auspices of Pope Innocent VIII, we had the greatest civilization, the greatest manifestation of civilization in the world at that time in what they would call deep, dark Africa, which is what we now call Nigeria. This is no myth. This is history. Our children don't know that.
No.
Because their mothers and fathers don't know that.
No.
Because their grandparents didn't know that. We have been blinded. And I think the scales are being removed from our eyes. I've seen it happen in my own life. I was well into my 40s before I became conscious of African history. And here I am, a man who majored in history and always loved studying history. I had this blind spot when it came to Africa. I thought there was nothing of substance to learn there. I even gave Egypt to the Middle East, which is a complete arbitrary designation that somehow separates the Nile Valley from the rest of Africa and moves it someplace else. So I think we need to look within ourselves and ask ourselves why we hold up these blind spots and these prejudices against our own being, our own selves, and not study what actually happened. And I think that's what this Hidden Colors series and many other documentaries have done. And I see more and more young people wearing their hair natural, speaking proudly of their African heritage, and moving forward in a way that says, look, I can program a computer, I can conduct surgery on that heart, I can run a CAT scan on your brain, I can fix the engine in your car, I can do anything that can be done, but I won't do it under the auspices of you somehow being supreme to me because your skin lacks melanin. Those days are over. And I think it started really in the 60s with our generation. When we started with the I'm Black and I'm Proud, I think that was the eye opening and the sleep being removed. And we've been increasing at a snail's pace, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I think we're moving also.
So this is happening the day after the Thanksgiving?
Yeah, Black Friday at Shabazz Academy.
Okay.
On Burns and MLK.
And he was saying that it reminded me of a few days ago, and I don't know what day it was, but it was last week sometime. Y'all probably heard on a plane, a guy had a heart attack or something. Anyway, this black lady was a doctor
From Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, flying home to Houston, heading to Minneapolis on a layover.
Yeah.
And a woman started calling for a doctor because her husband was having a medical emergency.
Yeah.
So the sister presented herself as a physician. And as she's helping the incapacitated passenger, whose wife, by the way, was grateful for the help,
Yeah.
was advised by a flight attendant to prove that she was a doctor. Show us your credentials.
Yeah.
We just somehow don't believe that you're a doctor. Then she was told, well, sweetie, that's a quote, don't worry about it, we've got a doctor. Because a white male walked up and presented himself as a doctor.
Yeah.
They didn't ask him for his credentials.
No.
Didn't ask him where he went to med school. Didn't look at him side-eye.
Nope.
Just moved out of the way and let him treat this man who was having the medical emergency. So Sister Girl, to her credit, and I think she handled it perfectly, said, okay, we're gonna see how you regard me in the future, because this ain't over. I'm gonna be talking to Delta, and the woman, the flight attendant, doing what flight attendants are trained to do, I suppose, offered her Delta miles as compensation for this embarrassment and humiliation she went to. And Sister Girl said, no, I'm gonna have some Delta miles and some, because this is not acceptable. And I wish I could say as I read every day, and I read stuff like this every day, and I'm never shocked and surprised. It just never, Chuck, I never see something like this say, no, wow. I mean, it's like, okay, the sun came up in the east, let's go set in the west.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
And to me, that's what, when we say Black Lives Matter, to me that's
the heart of it.
Yeah. It ain't, and we do matter. But if you don't think that you matter, then we'll continue to get treated like that.
Right.
And they won't have no respect for you until you have economics.
Right. That's it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are we supposed to deal with this until we get economics?
Information.
Information?
Yeah. We got to inform this new generation that's coming up.
Okay.
It ain't about hating white folks.
No, none of that. No.
I ain't advocating that.
No.
It's about knowing who you are
Yeah.
and believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Brother Dennis said, I mean, we had everything.
Mm-hmm.
We not no Rudy Poots.
Right. Right.
You
right.
know, we can do what they do,
Yeah.
and they can do it better.
Yeah.
And they learned so much from us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's in writing.
Yeah.
So you the kingpin,
Right.
but if you don't believe that you're the kingpin, you're going to end up on the bottom, and
Right.
that's where we are.
Yeah. It reminds me of back when W.E.B. Du Bois and all those people were great writers and all these things, and all of a sudden it looked like it just kind of went down. What happened?
Well, the amnesia that we suffer from was imparted upon us. It's not as if we stopped teaching ourselves history. I mean, it's really not that difficult to understand if we're on a continent as big as Africa, where you can put all of the United States, all of Western Europe, and a good chunk of Asia within the border, and you look at the DNA diversity of African people, we're the most diverse people on the planet, the melanated people of Africa, what we consider to be black folks. You have to take into consideration the millennia, and I say that in terms of plural.
Okay.
Several millennia of culture, of language, of history that this continent spawned and nurtured. And you take someone, say for example, your forefathers come from Central Africa, and yours come from West Africa, and mine come from East Africa.
Okay.
And you put us all together on the same boat purposefully, so we can't communicate.
Right.
We separate. We're separated from our women and our children. We're beaten into submission, but we still remember who we are. But then when our children are born, they're denied access to us. They don't know our language. They don't know our history. They're separated from us, and they're taught that you come from nothing.
Right.
You're no more than an animal, literally.
Right.
You were running around naked with a bone in your nose,
Right.
and if we didn't watch you real closely, you'd kill me, throw me in a pot, and eat me. And that's passed down generation after generation until the point that a child like me, born in the late 50s, grows up watching Tarzan movies and was insulted if someone called me an African.
Right. Right.
If someone called me black, I was ready to fight.
Right. Yeah.
That was taught. And I learned to unlearn that. And a lot of it had to do with James Brown and SNCC and the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King and me
Malcolm
starting
X,
to feel,
Malcolm X.
yeah, absolutely, and me starting to feel like I don't want to wear nothing but an afro. You know, that was all the beginning of it for me personally. And I think what we're seeing now is these young people are coming around to the notion that there's something here that doesn't make sense. And I don't know what the answers are, but I damn sure know that Columbus didn't discover America, and I didn't come here as an animal, and you're not inherently better than me. So I think just starting at that basic point, we're starting to see people look for answers in places that they didn't look before, and they're finding out things that fit. They click, they make sense because they're historically accurate.
Yeah, right.
So we've got this this push now by a lot of young people. I was watching something yesterday that was pro football tight end plays with the Baltimore
Ravens.
Ravens. And one played with, I think he played the Washington Redskins, but he's retired now. But this other one, he's seven on the Players Union, okay, black guy. And it was a program on PBS, but they was talking about Black Lives Matter and kind of a thing like that. And I noticed that it's really I don't want to say catching on, but it's on. What do you think? What do you think we can look at about 5 years from now? Black Lives Matter. What do you think will happen?
I think it's going to multiply. I think it's going to, bring more awareness or more consciousness to our plight as a people, especially on a younger level with the new generation. And we as parents and grandparents, we have to assimilate these to our children and don't let them go blind or go back to sleep.
Right.
As long as we keep the engine running, and don't go to sleep again like we did, and let the black family be destroyed again.
Right.
It's our fault. And you can't blame the white man.
No.
It's something that we have to take upon ourselves. And I have a big issue with the African American church. They're the ones that are keeping the Jim Crow thing alive by teaching little children that a white man is God.
Yeah.
To me, that's asinine.
Yeah.
Being a grown man and not thinking about that pie in the sky, just looking at being real.
Right. Yeah.
You don't teach that.
Right.
If you want to hear about a black guy, go out to the white community.
Yeah.
But in the black community, don't be talking about no white man is better than me.
Right. Yeah.
After what we've been through as a people.
Right. And we're still here.
Yeah.
And still surviving.
That's psychologically condemning yourself.
Absolutely. How can you have a house where the wife truly respects the husband when her Lord and Savior is a dude who looks like my weed dealer when I was in college? The long hair and the beard.
Yeah.
That's your Savior?
Yeah.
What about the man who loves you and works every day with you to keep these children fed and the food on the table, the roof over your head? Shouldn't she be his Savior and he be her Savior? Shouldn't that be the way it's concealed? But but it's no accident, Chuck. It's by design.
I know it's by design.
We got 7 minutes, and we got to speak about this. We got the election coming up. In fact, 7 days from today. Well, maybe 7 days and a little bit, and a little piece of day.
I thought Trump said it got moved to November 28th, man. I was looking for a couple more weeks of this, man.
But what do you see in the election? Because to me, and Chuck explained his part of it. I have to when we, it was not shot marbles. I shot marbles a long time ago.
Back when they first got invented, right?
but and you shoot marbles, you lag and go on and look and say, okay, this is my best way for me to get to this. So that's the way I look at it as who, I know they both have, one got a real bad record, Trump, and and now they come in, she's got this and she's got this, and but to me, there's no worse person could be the president of the U.S. than Donald Trump. Go ahead.
Well, he's unqualified. There's no question about that. He has no intellectual curiosity. He doesn't have much intellect to speak of. He's a misogynist. He's a racist. He's a loudmouth. He's bombastic. He was born on third base and acts like he hit a triple. We've said on this show months ago that if he had taken the money he inherited from his father and put it in the S&P, he'd have more money now than he does with his so-called business acumen. He has no business acumen. He rips off his suppliers. He beats up on the little man. Doesn't pay on time. He's as we speak, a week before the election, is being sued by a 13-year-old girl who's accusing him of rape. Now, let Donald Trump's name be, I don't know, Darnell Thompson, and he was a brother businessman, with some wild hair like Don King, and he had that kind of thing on his horizon, you wouldn't have an hour go past without them talking about this dude is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. But we don't hear about it.
Oh, no.
But what we do hear about is the FBI Director Comey announcing that he's going to look at Hillary at emails that have Hillary's name on that belong to the husband of one of her aides, who himself is being investigated for having an inappropriate relationship with a minor. They don't have any idea if the emails say that Hillary went shopping for catfish, or if Hillary likes to eat extra cheese on a macaroni, or if Hillary was conspiring with Al Qaeda to blow up Moscow. They have no idea what any of this says.
Right.
He throws this out 11 days before the election, and we're supposed to think that there's not an intention to manipulate or affect the election. So if you look at these things in total, you have to think there's some dirty dealing going on here. And I think that's what we're looking at. And again, man, and you know me, I'm no Hillary fan. I'm just pragmatic. I'm looking at the choices here.
Yeah.
It's a Hobbesian choice.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, you have to make the best of what you're offered. And I've got a friend, man, who's a professional white woman, married to a Hispanic man, a Mexican American, an American of Mexican descent, who came here as a so-called illegal and became a citizen, running a business, doing good things. And I had to ask her, you voting for Trump? After what he says and does about women? After what he says and does about your husband's people? I'm not even gonna mention everything else. What am I missing here? What am I missing here? And it all comes back to that idea that Trump has taken the Democratic position of running a populist campaign, a faux populist campaign. He's no more populist than that speaker on the wall back there. But he's pretending to be a populist, and there's a lot of people out here hurting economically who don't have the earnings and the jobs that they used to have. The American dream has gone the way of a birthday balloon flown away. But just that little glimmer of hope. It's not that she's a racist. It's the idea that she's seeing this little glimmer of hope. Somebody's hearing me, and I can hold on to that. And that's something that the Democrats had a chance to latch on with Bernie Sanders for reasons mysterious to me. He wasn't seriously considered by, especially African Americans. And here we are. Now we've got this fool running against a woman that I hope somehow has some concern about real people instead of corporations.
What do you say, Chuck?
I think it's a sign for black people to wake up. You got these two people that's been accused of lying and cheating, and you know the history of this country, and they'll give you a promise, but they never keep the promise.
Okay.
But you know, it is when the devil cast out the devil, a house is divided can't stand.
Okay.
So that's what you're looking at. So if you don't start believing in yourself and say, hey, this is enough of this foolishness, and be about taking care of your business, then what you get is what you deserve.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you're too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.